Forget that classic movie scene where the gunslinger pushes open the saloon doors and everyone stops drinking. In real life, nobody really cared. The guys kept playing cards, the bartender kept filling glasses, and the conversation didn't even quiet down. Those Old West bars were more like a neighborhood dive bar than a Hollywood set. Workers would come in to blow their paycheck, get out of the heat, and maybe start some trouble after the third shot. The whiskey? A lot of the time it was watered down or mixed with stuff you don't even want to know about. Subscribe to our channel to keep watching videos like this. Number 1. Forget what Hollywood showed. A real Old West saloon was a whole different story. In mining camps and train stops, it was usually the first business to open up. And when I say doors, I'm being generous. A lot of them started as a tarp thrown over some stakes, a mud shack, or boards left over from another build. When money started coming in, you'd get the famous false front, that tall wall out front selling a kind of greatness that didn't exist inside. It wasn't vanity, it was pure strategy. A big, imposing front told travelers that place was here to stay. Now picture pushing that door open. The smell hit first. Stale beer, cheap whiskey, built-up sweat, and tobacco smoke stuck to the walls. Every time the swinging doors moved, street dust came in along with a trail of manure. Live music? A rare luxury. The constant sound was the buzz of conversation, broken up by dry coughs. The floor told its own story. Covered in sawdust to soak up spilled drinks and spit, it was always damp and stained. The bar was sticky from all the use and the sugar in the drinks. Kerosene lamps fought the darkness, leaving everything kind of hazy. Even the swinging doors had a practical job: push some of the stink out and bring in a little fresh air. The saloon wasn't about luxury, it was about survival, building something that looked permanent in a place where nothing was certain. Number 2, a breeding ground for disease. Have you ever stopped to think what life was like with no plumbing, no hot water coming out of the tap, none of the stuff we use every day without even noticing? Yeah, out in the Old West, taking a bath was a real hassle. You had to haul water from the well, fire up the stove, wait for it to heat, drag the tub into the middle of the room. And a lot of families had just one tub for everyone. The father went first, then the mother, then the older kids. By the time it was the youngest one's turn, it was more like soup than water. And teeth? No toothbrush, so the way to do it was to shove a blade between them to get out whatever was left from the food. If it got infected, the solution was to sit in the barber's chair or go see the blacksmith, who'd take care of it with pliers and a shot of whiskey to handle the pain. And towns didn't help at all. There was no sewer system. Trash ended up right in the street, and with rain it turned into mud, with sun it turned into dust. All of that got dragged into the saloons, stuck to boots, coats, and wagon wheels. Inside, the rooms were always packed, hot and stuffy, a paradise for lice, flies, and roaches. The math was simple: no hygiene, no sanitation, pests everywhere, and diseases ran wild. Cholera traveled in the cups everyone used. Tuberculosis loved those smoke-filled rooms. Smallpox jumped from person to person like a wildfire in dry brush. A toast, a handshake, anything could kick off a fever. The real danger wasn't the fight or the gun, it was what nobody could see. Number 3, you've probably seen those movie scenes where the cowboy walks into the saloon, slaps the bar, and asks for a whiskey. The bartender pours it, the guy knocks it back in one go and moves on. Looks simple, but the reality was very different, and a lot more dangerous than Hollywood shows. Real bourbon, the aged, well-made stuff, cost a fortune and hardly ever made it to frontier towns. So what did people drink? A mix with some pretty telling nicknames: coffin varnish, tarantula juice, rat poison. And look, that wasn't just a figure of speech. Saloon owners had to keep the business running, so they came up with their own recipes. They'd take cheap grain alcohol, toss in burnt sugar for color, and add chewing tobacco to give it that kick in your throat. That would be bad enough, but it got worse. Turpentine went into the mix. Creosote, too, the same stuff used to preserve fence wood. Substances nobody today would go anywhere near. The result could drop a grown man in minutes. And the hangover? Brutal doesn't even start to cover it. In mining towns and frontier outposts, there was no oversight. A label didn't mean anything. Every sip was a gamble, and the odds were against you. So when someone called that drink rat poison, they weren't complaining. They were describing the product with almost scientific accuracy. Number 4. You've probably heard that Old West saloons were non-stop dens of violence. The reality was pretty different. Most fights started over gambling, debts, or a sideways comment. They lasted a few minutes and involved 2 or 3 guys, not cinematic shootouts. Here's something few people know. A lot of towns required men to leave their guns at the door. That's right. The idea of a cowboy armed to the teeth drinking whiskey is more Hollywood than history. The rule didn't end trouble, of course. It just changed the kind of fight. Fists replaced bullets. Gambling was the real engine of the business. Packed tables, beat-up decks, and chips moving all night long. Some table owners built a solid reputation because they understood one simple thing: trust brought customers back. Others took the short road. Professional cheaters cleaned out newcomers with marked cards and tricks practiced for years. And the women? The story is more complicated than it seems. The women who worked in saloons sang, danced, and kept the conversation going. For many, it was one of the few chances to earn their own money in a brutal land. Prostitution existed, but it followed different rules, with serious risks and little protection. The saloon ran like any business. It counted losses, paid the band, and opened the doors the next day. Less myth, more survival. Number 5. Those swinging doors you see in the movies? Not everyone could walk through them. The Old West Hollywood sold for decades hides a very different reality. The saloon worked like a social machine with rules nobody wrote down, but everybody knew. Those rules decided who could come in and how each person was supposed to act inside. At the bar, cowboys, miners, sheriffs, and outlaws shared the same space. Roles could change fast in there. A guy could stand for the law one day and cause trouble the next. But even with that mix, the lines stayed pretty clear. Women society considered respectable didn't walk through that door. Native Americans and Chinese immigrants found the way blocked most of the time. Black men, who were present in good numbers in the West, ran into the wall of segregation and ended up opening their own places. And there was a ban few people imagine: soldiers. A military uniform brought tension, and owners preferred to avoid trouble with government people. Even the ones who got in still had to follow a code of conduct. Discretion was worth more than gold. Nobody asked where the other guy came from or what reason he had for being there. Staring at someone was asking for trouble. There was also the ritual of buying around. When a man offered a drink, he expected to see the other guy take it. Turning it down worked like a slap in the face and could end in violence. Day to day in those places had little of the glamour the studios created. The air carried the smell of sweat, tobacco, and filth. A lot of places served drinks of questionable quality, some mixed with substances that made you sick. Hygiene basically didn't exist, and diseases spread without anyone being able to control them. Understanding how the saloon really worked helps you see the West without the fantasy. It wasn't a stage for heroes. It was a stop where ordinary people looked for rest, information, a chance to make money, or just forget their problems. What kept it all running wasn't adventure, but a system of exclusions and rituals that organized life together while the frontier took its price from everyone. And you, what stands out more here? The doctored booze, the diseases lurking around, or that etiquette that mattered more than any gun? Leave it in the comments.